The Hulk Hogan thing was crazy. He was here just, how long ago? A year ago? Yeah. He was in the podcast for a year ago. Hulk went in for some surgery, apparently, and he got an infection.
I think it was neck, spine surgery or something that he couldn't come back from. But then the other guy, Malcolm Jamal Warner, the kid from The Cosby Show.
They always die in threes. Celebrities die in threes. Why is that true? Malcolm died swimming, right?
Yeah, it was a swimming incident in Costa Rica.
Fuck, man, you got to be able to swim, and you got to not f with the tides.
Just now, Joe Rogan broke his silence with a message that said everything and nothing at all. 3 words. Rest easy, brother. Posted quietly, without fanfare. No podcast monologue, no video, just a tweet. But those 3 words carried the weight of a man Rogan had admired for decades. A man who, like Rogan himself, blurred the line between performer and persona, showman and fighter, icon and controversy magnet. And in that moment, Joe wasn't just mourning a celebrity. He was acknowledging a cultural titan whose fingerprints are all over the modern fight game.
So as someone who gets to stand here and say that I'm a WWE superstar, he was the original, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you, Hulk Hogan.
Meanwhile, over in the WWE universe, a very different kind of tribute was happening. Triple H stood center stage at a live WWE event, backed by dozens of the most recognizable faces in wrestling.
So many of us were honored to call a friend. The truth is, he captivated millions of people and inspired them around the globe.
Behind him glowed a massive screen, a solemn black banner, Hogan's name in bold white, framed by the words, "In Memoriam." His voice cracked slightly as he spoke. We would not be standing here right now, all of us together, if it was not for him. He called Hogan the One, the Immortal, and in that moment, no one argued. But here's the thing. This wasn't the first time Hogan had died. In fact, if you spent any time online in the last decade, you've probably heard that Hulk Hogan was already dead. Maybe in 2014. Or 2015, or just last year. That's because, long before his actual passing, Hogan became one of the internet's most infamous dead men walking. And what happened next, his revenge, his lawsuit, and his stand against the web, would change digital history forever. At exactly 9:51 a.m. in Clearwater, Florida, 911 operators received a call from Hogan's home. Just 86 minutes later, at 11:17 a.m., Terry Jean Balea, known to the world as Hulk Hogan, was pronounced dead at Morton Plant Hospital.
I do have to shift to this, and unfortunately, this is some sad news that we're following. Hulk Hogan has reportedly died. The wrestling legend was a 6-time WWE champion and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Hogan also went on to have a successful movie career. He was a beloved husband and father. He was only 71 years old.
Cause of death: cardiac arrest. According to police, there were no signs of foul play or suspicious activity. It was sudden, it was tragic, and it was real. The tributes came fast. Joe Rogan's short post led a wave of reactions from every quarter of pop culture.
I've watched him lift 350-pound men over his head and throw him out of the ring. No, he was the real deal. He was MAGA all the way. He said, "I wish I got this." He said, "I've always loved you. You know, we've always been friends."
Former President Donald Trump wrote an entire tribute calling Hogan MAGA all the way.
People always wanted to paint us as enemies, but we were actually very, very close friends. And we kept up with each other on a regular basis. So
Ric Flair, visibly shaken, called him the most iconic figure in wrestling history. Triple H acknowledged Hogan as the man who literally built the modern WWE. Even MMA legends like Ronda Rousey and Daniel Cormier weighed in, calling him the reason we ever tuned in. But while the world was stunned by the news, there was a weird sense of déjà vu in the air. And for a very strange reason. See, if you followed Hulk Hogan online, this wasn't the first time you read about his death. Not even close. In 2014, rumors swirled that Hogan had been shot. In 2015, the same claim surfaced again. Same headline, different photo. In 2024, Reddit threads popped up declaring him dead on arrival. These weren't just one-off posts. They went viral. Sometimes trending, sometimes convincing casual fans it had really happened. Even Google search results would get confused, briefly surfacing old death hoaxes as breaking news. And during that time, Hogan became one of the most digitally manipulated celebrities in internet history. His face, complete with that iconic blonde horseshoe mustache and headband, was photoshopped onto everything. Politicians, fake mugshots, fake funerals, meme posters, AI-generated skits. His biceps, the infamous 24-inch pythons, were edited to feature different heads. His voice was cloned in joke audios. To younger internet users, Hulk Hogan wasn't even a real man. He was a meme, a caricature, a digital ghost. But here's the twist. Hogan didn't sit back and take it. In fact, when the web tried to kill his name, he came back swinging. In 2012, a scandal broke that would change Hogan's life and the future of internet media. A site called Gawker, known for its gossip, snark, and complete disregard for personal boundaries, published a clip from a stolen sex tape featuring Hogan and the wife of his then best friend.
Terry DeLay's penis is not 10 inches like you're trying to say.
Hogan said he didn't even know it had been recorded. He hadn't consented, and Gawker posted it anyway. The lawsuit that followed wasn't just salacious tabloid fodder. It became one of the most important privacy trials of the digital age. Hogan sued for invasion of privacy. Gawker claimed it was newsworthy. But behind the scenes, billionaire Peter Thiel, secretly outed as gay by Gawker years earlier, was funding Hogan's legal war. It was personal. It was massive. The verdict? A $140 million win for Hogan. Gawker was financially destroyed and ultimately shut down. The media world never operated the same again. Sure, the settlement was reduced to $31 million in the end, but the message was clear. You can't just destroy someone's life for clicks. You can't just exploit someone's body and say it's news. This case didn't create new legal precedent, but culturally, it signaled the end of the anything goes internet. And at the center of it all stood Hogan, beaten up, digitally violated, and yet still swinging.
He was here just how long ago? A year ago? Yeah, he was in the podcast for a year ago.
Well, Ozzy did that concert on the 5th of July.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, in his chair.
But Hulk went in for some surgery, apparently. And
to outsiders, Joe Rogan and Hulk Hogan might seem like an odd pair. One's a jiu-jitsu black belt and UFC commentator. The other, a scripted wrestler from the 80s. But Rogan saw through that sophist difference, and he respected the hell out of Hogan. On multiple podcast episodes, Rogan referred to Hogan as the original fight promoter. A man who made violence theatrical, who made muscle into mythology. Rogan pointed out how Hogan turned every walkout into a moment.
And he got an infection.
Yeah. I think it was neck or spine surgery or something that he couldn't come back from. But and it's all in the same week. And then what? What's his name? Then the other guy, this poor guy. It always happens, right? Malcolm Jamal Warner, the kid from the Cosby Show. He dies, and then nobody thinks about it because, like, the day after, Ozzy dies, and then Hulk Hogan dies. They
always die in threes.
Yeah.
Something MMA fighters now model, whether they realize it or not. Even his guests, fighters like Ronda Rousey, Daniel Cormier, and Masvidal, talked about growing up with Hogan posters on their walls. To Rogan, Hogan wasn't just a wrestler. He was the blueprint. And now, with his passing, Rogan's simple tribute, "Rest easy, brother," felt less like a goodbye and more like a passing of the torch. Because in many ways, Joe Rogan became the kind of cultural force Hogan once was. Divisive, unstoppable, and obsessed over by the internet. Long after most legends had faded into nostalgia, Hulk Hogan was still building. Not his brand, his next empire. Despite ongoing rumors of declining health, Hogan was in motion. fast. He wasn't settling into retirement. He wasn't filming farewell interviews. He was negotiating, hiring, pitching, investing. His energy was focused on 3 massive ventures: real American beer, a patriotic craft beer brand that was gaining traction in the Southeast. Hogan wasn't just a spokesperson. He was in on the ground floor, helping shape the branding and rollout strategy. Hooters rebranding talks. Insiders close to Hogan confirmed that he was deep into discussions to revamp and possibly acquire a stake in Hooters, aiming to repackage the chain with a real American flair. It wasn't just branding. It was personal legacy building. Real American freestyle wrestling promotion. This was the crown jewel of his comeback. Hogan was set to serve as commissioner of a brand new promotion aimed at mixing old-school wrestling values with modern showmanship. The first event was already announced for August 30th, 2025. Roster building had begun. Merchandise was in development. Venues were being scouted. Sources said Hogan had personally approved creative concepts and had even teased a possible in-ring appearance. Not to wrestle, but to deliver a speech that would bring the crowd to its feet one last time. For anyone else, these projects would seem impossible, especially for a man in his 70s who had weathered physical, legal, and emotional storms. But for Hogan, he wasn't retiring. A friend close to the family said, he was reinventing again. This was never going to be a quiet ending. But while Hogan's spirit was tireless, the toll on his body told a different story. If you looked closely in recent years, you can see it. The stiff gait, the slow rise from a chair, the winces behind the sunglasses. Hulk Hogan, the man who once lifted 500-pound giants over his head, was fighting a very different battle. And it wasn't new. Hogan once said in an interview, "I don't think I have any original body parts left." It wasn't an exaggeration. He had undergone over 50 surgeries, including back fusions, hip replacements, knee reconstructions, and multiple spinal procedures. Surgeons had rebuilt his frame from the inside out, using rods, plates, and screws. He was quite literally a man held together by metal. His body had absorbed decades of punishment. Every body slam, every chair shot, every leap from the top rope had consequences. Wrestling might have been scripted, but the pain was never fake. On the morning of his death, emergency crews performed CPR on Hogan for over 30 minutes. It was a brutal, desperate effort to revive a man whose heart had simply given out. He was declared dead shortly after arriving at Morton Plant Hospital. And yet, when the news broke, no one posted about the surgeries. No one shared hospital photos. The world didn't see the pain, just the presence. He wasn't remembered as a patient. He was remembered as a powerhouse. But as the tributes rolled in, a more complicated picture began to emerge. The tributes came like a tidal wave, emotional, reverent, and sometimes conflicted. Triple H called him the immortal who inspired millions. Ric Flair, his old rival and close friend, said they had been brothers for over 40 years. The Undertaker, solemn and measured, wrote, "His contributions to wrestling are immeasurable." Outside the ring, the MMA world weighed in. Jorge Masvidal called a photo with Hogan one of the coolest moments of my life. Jake Paul said, "I grew up watching Hulk, the realist." Colby Covington, known for his patriotic persona, posted, "Hulkster, Hulkamania will live forever."
It's hard to believe, but being a friend, I got to see his life a little bit, and his knees were in trouble, his back was in trouble. He was in such trouble, but he was great. He was a great man, he was an incredible showman, and he was really a great friend, and he was a great friend to MAGA.
Even President Donald Trump posted a detailed tribute describing Hogan as a great friend, strong, tough, smart, with the biggest heart. But not all voices were praising. The resurfacing of Hogan's racially charged remarks from the infamous leaked audio that nearly ended his career in 2015, caused division among fans. On social media, a split emerged. One side honored his achievements, saying his legacy overshadowed his mistakes. The other refused to forget or forgive, saying racists don't get hero funerals. It was a sharp contrast to the image fans had clung to for decades. Still, some in the fight world offered a middle ground. Veteran referee Big John McCarthy wrote, "I'm not here to discuss his sins. He was a hero to many." Whether you saw Hogan as a legend or a fallen idol, one thing was clear: he was impossible to ignore. And love him or hate him, Hogan left behind something even greater than fame. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a man. He was a myth, one that constantly evolved, fractured, and rebuilt itself for every new era. He was born in the gritty world of 1980s wrestling, rose to global fame in the 90s, and outlasted his own controversies in the 2000s. He transitioned from fighter to media mogul, meme to martyr, and finally, defender of digital privacy in an era that didn't even understand what privacy meant. He took on the internet and won. He took on the system and changed it. And now, with just 3 words, Joe Rogan summed up a lifetime of triumphs, scandals, and comebacks. Rest easy, brother. That wasn't just a farewell. It was a salute, a nod from one cultural warrior to another. From one man who redefined what masculinity, media, and myth looked like to the one who came before him. We may never see another like him. Not in the ring, not on the web, not anywhere. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Subscribe to Boxing is Here for the latest updates, fight breakdowns, and expert analysis. And turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, peace out.